I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I'm a coach who helps people professionally in a variety of ways, and here we're doing Ask Me Anything About Job Hunting. I've turned this into a weekly for me with 10 questions that I've been asked during the previous week and providing my answers to it. I worked as a headhunter for more than 40 years, filled more than 1,200 full-time positions, plus consulting assignments over the course of that period of time. I've been in tons of conversations with job hunters, hiring managers, HR professionals, all allowing me to understand what goes on behind the curtain. Ooh. And frankly, I give you unfiltered advice because frankly, most of you need to hear what firms say about job hunters and what they really look for. So I've got 10 questions today. The first one is, how do you convince a hiring manager that you'd be an excellent investment as an out-of-state hire? Well, it starts off with, demonstrating that you fit the role, but that's always the launch point for any job. What makes you an excellent investment is if you have a testimonial on your resume from someone who works at the firm who knows you. So an early statement from the person on your resume, plus they walk it over and refer you, is a strong indicator that you'd be a worthwhile person for them to hire. Obviously, you need to back it up, but that's the launch point for so much of this, is managers believing that if they invest the time in an individual, they have a reasonable probability that this person's going to be hired. So that's question number one. Number two is, why would a hiring manager put me in a room to handwrite a job application letter as she watched me, regardless of the fact that I dropped the type one off several weeks ago? Well, we don't know specifics. There may be more to this, but the short version is they don't trust you. There's something incongruent about what you wrote, what you spoke, and it gives them the idea that instead of you writing it, the original application, someone else did it for you. Maybe you're not a U.S. citizen and your English is not perfect, and you wrote an absolutely exquisite letter. They want to understand what your part in this was, so they're asking you to do it again. And yes, you typed it. This one's going to be handwritten. It's really just about you communicating and them getting a feel for how you write. And that's not about handwriting necessarily. It's about your writing style and confirming that that was you who wrote it. Number three, why do companies look at job gaps as a warning to not help someone get a job, despite not knowing the whole story on why this happened? Well, because a lot of times it is an indicator. That's the fact of it. It's an indicator that this was a problem person. If it's not a problem person, you could tell them in the resume you got laid off as part of a 20,000 person reduction in force. You got laid off when business turned bad. The department got shut down. You can put that on the resume. If you leave that for them to figure out, this is where their mind goes to. They consider it an indicator that you might be a problem person because you haven't told them it was part of a layoff. Tell them. Make it easy for them to understand what your circumstances were. And then from there, as always, if you know someone who works at the firm, have them refer you so that in this way they can answer some of the questions for you for the manager. Next, why do some jobs require a cover letter while others don't? Well, they want to see how you write. And that was my answer for a previous person. It's an indicator of writing style. It's an indicator of written communications because if you can't write a cover letter, you obviously may have trouble writing a memo. As why some firms do it and some firms don't. Some firms don't care. This firm or these firms do care. Give them what they want. To me, cover letters are a sales opportunity for you to demonstrate a fit for the role that you might not necessarily be able to perfectly do in the resume. And I've done tons of videos about that before. Go to JobSearchTV, go to the cover letter playlist. There's information there that will help you. Next, What are the disadvantages and advantages of telephone interviews for an interviewer or the interviewee? For the interviewee, let me start with that. Phone interviews are easier and harder than face-to-face interviews. They're easier in that you're at your home, you're wherever you're comfortable. You can have notes in front of you. You can have the job description in front of you. You can have little reminders for yourself about things you may have been told by the third-party recruiter to highlight in the course of your answer. Remember, they can't see that. You can. That makes it easier. It's harder in that they're not influenced by your appearance, by what you're wearing, how good-looking you are. They're not influenced by your wardrobe. All they have is your voice to go by. And most people aren't really good at oral presentations. So your voice is your sales tool. People forget that. And thus, although you may have the answers in front of you, you may need to, shall we say, prepare how you're going to talk about things even though you have notes in front of you. From the interviewer's standpoint, if they don't like you, they're going to be off the phone in 15 minutes. That's an advantage from a time standpoint. Yes, they could do that in person, but in person, it's ruder to do, and that's the way people do it. They also don't have that walk to and from the office. They can be a couple of minutes late. They're also not dragging you to a place for a half-hour conversation. From their standpoint, it's a time saver. They can book you in the slots of the day, schedule in a way that works for them. It just seems simpler. So let's see now. Why do employers on Indeed and other sites expect people to do assessments in addition to a resume and cover letter? Great question. Here's why. Most people spam resumes to the Western Hemisphere. There's little that indicates that they can do the job. What the assessment normally does is indicate to the person submitting their resume they are unqualified, and it saves some of the questioning and thus is a time saver from their standpoint, from an employer standpoint. You answer a question in a stupid way, they can just hit the delete key and not invest any time, even though your resume may look very good for the role. But overall, the idea is it's about saving time. Seriously, you save them time. Because if you don't fill it out, you're too lazy, just hit delete. If you fill it out with wrong answers, they haven't wasted time with an interview to find this out, they hit the delete key. If you give wrong answers, delete. Right answers, they have reasonable confidence that they should be talking with you. How do you get executive recruiters to notice you? Number one is be in a field, in a market where they're trying to fill a job, doing work that is, shall we say, demonstrably important and for which you are recognized. Now, how do you get recognized? You're a speaker, you write, you become celebrity online. If you think you can keep your head down and no one will be any the wiser, and yet the recruiter is going to find you, sorry, it doesn't work that way. You're just another drone in the organization. You have to be known. You might be Googleable. When they look at your LinkedIn profile, they see that there's someone there who's got those qualities that they're looking for. That's how you do it. And if you're asking this question, you shouldn't be working with a real executive search firm. Okay. Who could be viewing my LinkedIn profile on a weekend night? Someone who cares about filling a job. Could be a third-party recruiter, could be a corporate recruiter, could be a hiring manager. Could be someone who's a marketer. Those are the four categories you find on LinkedIn looking at profiles. They're trying to find someone to sell to. Sell a job, sell an opportunity, sell a product or service to. Like I said, corporate or third-party recruiter, hiring manager, marketer. Could be an insurance person, but or a financial planner trying to sell you services, but these tend to be the categories where people are doing the weekend work. How do you respond to, why do you want to work at our company when actually you just want a job? Well, you don't just simply say, I just want a job. You say something along the lines of, and this is the answer I used to tell people when I was doing recruiting, and one of my clients asked this question. I was doing recruiting for a major publisher, newspaper publisher in New York. You can figure it out. There are not many publishers there. And the correct answer was, why do I want to work for you? Why wouldn't I want to work for you? You're the number one publisher in this space. You're one of the top newspapers in the country. It's a great job. I'd love to work with this manager. What a terrific opportunity this is. And you give them enthusiasm back as though they've asked the dumbest question on the planet, and they love that. Last question. How does one make a good resume? The key part of that question is good resume. You may be thinking in terms of appearance. I'm going to think like a hiring manager. I want to see a resume that fits what I'm looking for, and that makes a good resume for me. So I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. Hope you found this helpful. My website is thebiggamehunter.us. I've got a lot more there that you can watch, listen to, or read that'll help you. Plus, you can schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. I would love to help you. And you can also, I'll also ask you to subscribe to my channel on YouTube by clicking the small icon in the lower right or the picture of me in the upper left. You'll get notified when I release something new. And lastly, you can watch me on TV. If you have a Fire TV or a Fire Stick, download the JobSearchTV app there. And if you have an Apple TV, Roku, Sony, Samsung, there are like 90 different TVs that I appear on. Download either Zingo TV or bingenetworks.tv. You can watch me there. Have a great day and take care.